glad you call me by my name. The love you give me, I just can't deny. Yeah, no longer blinded, I can tell.
Hey guys, welcome to my channel. I'm Mercedes. If you're new here, welcome to the channel, and if you're returning, as always, welcome back to my channel. So I wanted to make a dedicated video in regards to gardening, all things gardening. I love gardening. It has really been life-changing for me, but I don't typically do that type of content on my channel anymore just because it's not very popular on my channel. Unfortunately, I wish I could start a whole separate gardening channel. I just don't have the time to be honest, but I wanted to share some of the things that I've learned thus far being a new gardener. I've only been gardening for 3 years. It doesn't even seem like it, but I feel like I've learned a lot, and I can share those things with you guys of what I've learned, the beginner steps, so it doesn't feel so intimidating. I know sometimes learning from more experienced gardeners, it can be intimidating. They have so much information and it can be scary. So I wanted to just make a catch-all video on gardening, how to get started, what you need, websites and things that you can use. All will be linked in the description box. So let's go ahead and get started. So the first thing I will say, when you're wanting to start a garden, I would suggest you look up your growing zone. And I know all gardeners say this, but it is important so that you know what actually grows in your area. So you're not growing tropical plants in the desert and then giving up on gardening because you don't have any success when it comes to growing these tropical plants. It can make you give up if you are growing the wrong thing in your area because you just think, oh my gosh, I don't have a green thumb, I'm a bad gardener, everything's dying. And it's simply just because you're not growing the right things for your area. Everything is not going to grow in your area. Some things may grow in your area but need extra care, may have to be sprung inside, may have to be grown in a greenhouse. So it doesn't necessarily mean that you can't grow certain things. It just means that you have to take extra steps in order for some things to be successful in your area. So knowing your growing zone is important, you guys. I'm in growing zone 8B, and I found my growing zone just by Googling it. And then there is also a website that you can go to, type in your zip code, and it will tell you what you can grow, when you can grow it, when you need to start the seeds, when you need to transplant it outside, when you can direct sow it outside. If you go to this website and you type in your zip code, it will tell you exactly for your area, because sometimes grow zones can be subjective to the city or county that you live in. And then one side of the county can be in growing zone 8, one side of the county can be in growing zone 8B. So it really can get that detailed. So once you know your grow zone, then you can decide what type of garden do you want to have. Do you want to have a big homestead where you're growing everything, you're feeding your whole family, you're raising animals? Or is it something that you want to start off small? Maybe you live in an apartment and you think, oh, I can't have a garden because I don't have a backyard, but you can garden in containers. Even if you have a backyard and you just don't want to put anything in ground, whatever the case may be, you can start gardening. Just know what you want. Me personally, I decided to have area in my backyard where I can garden. So you have container gardening, you have raised bed gardening, and you have in-ground gardening. There are so many different methods you can do in order to start your garden. I personally use raised bed gardening because of the soil that I have in my area. I have hard rock clay soil, and it's just not the best for the plants and the veggies that I want to grow. So I decided to do raised garden beds so I could implement my own soil, create my own soil mixtures, and I can feed my plants the best of the best, or I mean better than what is native to my area. So I decided to do raised garden beds. You may not have an issue with your soil. Your soil may be good, but you also want to make sure that there's no like chemicals or pesticides that are in your soil from maybe weed killing from past years, or trying to get rid of like insects and stuff like that where pesticides were used on your lawn. That may also make you consider doing raised garden beds. And some people just do raised garden beds because I guess it's popular, but in reality, if I had the choice to grow in ground and I knew my soil was good, I would not do raised garden beds just because it's an extra expense. So just do what works for you. If you can do in ground and you don't have any issues with your soil, any pesticides, chemicals, anything, I would definitely suggest doing in-ground gardening. It's easier. You're not having to build anything. You're not having to buy extra wood or metal beds and all of that extra stuff. You can just get to your soil. So that leads me into what you're going to be growing your veggies in, what type of soil you need. I personally like to mix my soil now that I'm a little more advanced when it comes to gardening and I know what I want in my garden beds. But when I first started out, I was buying like raised garden bed soil mix, and then I would do some compost because that's what I was learning as I went. But now I don't buy garden raised bed potting mix. I create my own potting mix using compost, and this one's going to be a little controversial, peat moss, but you can also substitute that for coco coir. I am learning that there is an issue with peat moss and the mass production of it being sold. It's just not good for us to use peat moss at that rate. So peat moss, use it at your own risk. I use peat moss. You can use coco coir. Then I use perlite. You can use vermiculite, and then you can throw in compost. So I've created my own soil a couple of times now that I've gotten a little more advanced and knowledgeable in gardening, and I can show you guys that now so you can see how I make it, how I mix it, what I use, and it can be helpful for you as well if you're starting off your garden.
He said, "This is flesh of my flesh and bone of my bone. She shall be called woman." It was all woman when you saw me. Real people in this room.
Soften up the mess, drop it in the water, let the daughter find her image with the rest. She'll be learning how to breathe, spinning through identity, reveal another pretty little scheme. Save her mind, hold her hand, and don't believe a lie, you understand me. Walk her down the valley, pack a piece of heaven for the bottoms of her feet. Teach her how to jump and how to stretch when she reach, like the angels do, and you gon' make it through. Tell about the healer, greater is the one within, and call him as the leader. Teach her how to hold a pretty hand up to the sky, never wait upon the giver, he'll deliver like a dealer.
So I'm not one that uses like a lot of expensive products. I do try to be cost effective when it comes to gardening, because when I first started my garden, it was super expensive. I spent a lot of money, and I have not recovered that money. But I would say, as far as like my mental health, all of that, gardening has been great for me. So I don't regret anything, don't get me wrong. But yeah, it does get expensive. So if you're looking to garden just to save money, I can tell you the first few years you're not going to be saving money. You're going to be spending a lot of money, especially because it can somewhat become an addiction. Okay, you want to buy this plant, you want to buy these seeds, you want to buy these seeds, you want to buy this plant, you want to buy a fruit tree, you want to buy this. It can get expensive really really quick. So once you've decided on how you're going to grow your garden, you're going to use containers, you're going to use raised garden beds, or you're going to grow in ground, you know what type of soil you're going to create or just buy if you don't want to go through the process of having to mix your own soil. I get it. When I first started gardening, I didn't want to do that. I had already built a whole garden fence and raised garden beds. The last thing I wanted to do was mix up some and do all that, because gardening is back breaking. Okay, so if you want to do the local nursery, you want to go to Lowe's, Home Depot, department stores and purchase soil mix that's already mixed, I totally understand. But even with the soil, you're still going to have to feed your soil, make sure it is getting the nutritions that it needs. People go out and do soil tests, farmers, true gardeners. I'm not there yet. I'm not paying for no soil test. I'm just gonna pray that God gives my soil all the nutrients it needs with me going out and buying some fertilizer. Okay, so the first few years of gardening, I was slacking on the fertilizer, and it showed because my plants were small. They weren't producing at the rate that they could possibly produce. So I definitely suggest getting good fertilizer and being consistent with fertilizing. That was my issue. I bought the fertilizer, I just wasn't consistently fertilizing my plants. So I use the fish emulsion. Now you can definitely create your own fertilizers. When I first started gardening, I was trying everything from eggshells to banana water. You can create your own fertilizers. But if you're not there yet, you're a beginner gardener, you're just trying to learn the basics and what you can easily access at your local department store, your local nursery. You have fish emulsion that you can get from Walmart, Lowe's, Home Depot. You have a all-purpose fertilizer where you can fertilize your plants, your flowers, your veggies, your fruit trees. It's an all-purpose fertilizer. And then you have your bone meal, which is high in nitrogen. You have your blood meal, and then you have like earthworm castings. You have so many different fertilizers and things that you can feed your soil to ensure the health and growth of your plants. So you just want to get knowledgeable on things like that. So you have 3 numbers on most of your fertilizer bags. If you go to any store, you'll see these 3 numbers, and it's your NPK. So your nitrogen, your potassium, and your phosphorus. Nitrogen, potassium, phosphorus, or is it nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium, NPK? Yeah. Sorry. So that just means that if you have 444, that just means they're all equal in the nutrients that the fertilizer has. If you have a high nitrogen number, which is going to be your first number, let's say it's at A7, all your other numbers are 20, then that just means you have a higher nitrogen fertilizer, and it is going to provide more nitrogen than anything else. And you will learn like what nitrogen does for the plants. You'll learn what phosphorus does, potassium. You'll learn these things as you start to garden, and just know that your plants need these things. So yeah, that's pretty much what it is when it comes to the fertilization process. Like I said, you can make your own. You can go out and you can purchase them from the big box stores. I do both. Like, I don't prefer one over the other. If I can make some banana water, I'm going to make banana water. If I can make some eggshells, I'm going to sprinkle them in my soil. So it's just all in what benefits the plants. That's what I'm for. So once you have the basics down, it's up to you to decide what you want to grow in your garden. This is going to be based off of your growing zone that we talked about in the beginning of this video, as well as what you like to eat. What does your family like to eat? Don't just grow things just to grow it, because it's not going to motivate you to keep doing it. If you're growing things that you like to eat, that you enjoy, it's going to make you excited, and it's going to make you want to grow grow more of these things. So for me, I started off with the basics. I started off with peppers, strawberries. I grew collards and lettuce, leafy greens, stuff that I eat. And I attempted tomatoes, even though those are not my favorite. When I say tomatoes, like tomatoes by themselves, but I like spaghetti sauce. I like salsa, which all have tomatoes. So I started off with stuff like that. Carrots, oh my gosh, corn. Corn did so amazing for me. I wanted to grow corn forever because it was so good. It tasted 10 times better than any corn that I ever tasted. So just growing things that are going to get you excited, but you're also going to eat and enjoy. Watermelon, oh my gosh, growing my own watermelon just felt so fulfilling. Like, yeah, I did that. So get a list of the things that you want to grow, and once you have that list, you're going to decide how many plants of each thing you're going to grow. So you don't have to grow 10 different things. You can grow 5 of the same thing because you're going to need multiple plants. Even though they produce multiples, you're still going to need a good amount of plants to feed you, your family, or whoever you're trying to feed. If it's just you, I would say, 2 to 3 plants to feed you off of whatever you choose to grow. If you want to grow cayenne peppers, grow 3 pepper plants. If you want to grow tomatoes, grow 2 tomato plants for yourself, and that will help you focus on that one plant and perfect it and make sure that you know what it needs when it comes to fertilization, how much sunlight it needs, how many hours of shade it needs, how does it produce in your area. Maybe this variety of tomato doesn't do so well in your area, so maybe you need to try a different variety of tomato, because what you'll learn with gardening, there's so many different varieties of things that you eat. You have indeterminate tomatoes, you have determinate tomatoes, so it's a list of different things. Okay, once you decide what you're going to grow, then you need to decide what grows well together. Yes, certain plants grow good together, but some plants do not like to grow together. That just means they don't do well together. Unfortunately, that's just how nature crumbles. The cookie crumbles sometimes. Some things just don't work well together. So know what you want to grow, know what you're going to pair it with. So let's say tomatoes grow well with basil, because basil, all those icky insects that want to eat your tomatoes, the basil will attract them or keep them away from your tomato plants, giving your tomato plants a chance at life. Even though your basil plant is probably going to take the hits, but you'll learn in gardening. You're going to take some losses. You're going to have some wins, but you're going to take some losses. So companion planting, it's so important to plant flowers. Sometimes we want to start the garden, we want all the veggies in the world because we want to feed our families, we make sure that we know what's going into our bodies, but we forget about the flowers. The pollinators need the flowers. In order to pollinate those veggies that you want to grow for your family, you gotta be able to attract the pollinators, and you gotta create this ecosystem that is going to work and produce healthy, strong plants in your garden. So it's a lot of work. It takes dedication, it takes patience to watch your garden go from nothing to something, but you got to be patient. That's with anything in life. I know we learn at an early age, be patient. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video thus far. I don't want to overload you with information, but I did want to make this a one-stop shop when it comes to beginner gardening. We can go in depth, we can get even more detailed when it comes to gardening, but I wanted to give you guys a basic video on getting started. So I hope this video was helpful. If it was, I hope you give it a thumbs up. Subscribe to my channel if you guys want to just see some content in regards to me, my life. I do share my garden sometimes in my daily vlogs, but I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I will see you guys in another video if you decide to stick around. Bye guys.